All right, Trenni, it's the question everyone wants to know when talking about the defending champs. Ninth inning, it's 3-2. Who's closing games?
Your guess is as good as the rest of ours. I guess right now it looks like it's probably going to fall on a combination of Matt Barnes and Ryan Brazier. But right now, this team does not have a set closer. Alex Cora will not say who's going to close out games. It's going to be closer by committee. That's something that in the past hasn't worked, but they seem to feel that that's the best way to go right now because, of course, they did not re-sign Craig Kimbrell in free agency. No one has signed Craig Kimbrell yet. Tyler Thornburg did close for the Brewers a couple years ago. He's, though, still not 100% health-wise. He may not be ready for that role. So when you look at it, it's Matt Barnes and Ryan Brazier. Ryan Brazier, by the way, 0 saves in his career. Matt Barnes only has a couple.
Hey, Trenni, always good to see you. And Chris has a Twitter question on that very topic for you.
You too.
Use that hashtag MLB Preview NBC to get your questions asked and answered on the show. And Chris asks, how will the bullpen as a whole hold up without a proven closer or any new talent?
In all honesty, Layla, I think it's a problem. To me, this shows a bit of hubris in the Red Sox. And they did this in 2013 where they won the World Series. And they came back in 2014 and really didn't make any major additions. And they ended up in last place. I'm not saying they're going to end up in last place. They're not in that position right now. They have 4 really good starters. Eduardo Rodriguez, you still look at that and say, okay, what is he going to give you? But they're expecting him to take a step forward. But when you get into that bullpen, it is nothing but question marks. I mentioned Tyler Thornburg. He's still coming back from that thoracic outlet surgery. Ryan Brazier missed a big chunk of camp because he had a pinky toe infection. Matt Barnes has never really been a closer in his career. Neither has Brazier. And for people who aren't familiar with the Red Sox bullpen, Ryan Brazier was an invite to minor league camp last year. Just happened to stick out. He spent the year before that in Japan. So he surprised a lot of people. Can he duplicate that? Can Matt Barnes have the mentality, or Ryan Brazier, the mentality to be in that 9th inning? Heath Hembree, that's a guy who's had some success, but he's also never had any success in the 9th inning. So you have a lot of guys out there that have not really had to pitch on that stage in that position. I would imagine that this is a need the Red Sox are going to have to go out and fill as we get closer to that July 31st trade deadline. And we're already talking about the trade deadline. That, to me, though, is going to be a glaring problem for this team. And they can say all the things that they want, that they like their stuff. They've got good pitchers in that bullpen, but they don't have anyone that's proven. And if they think that Chris Sale and David Price and Nathan Eovaldi are going to carry the bullpen the same way they did last offseason. That, to me, is a dangerous proposition.
All right, Trenni, let's take a closer look at the starting rotation. Red Sox just extended Chris Sale 5 more years, $145 million. Some people in the game think it's exceptionally risky. What do you think?
If it's exceptionally risky. I mean, obviously he did have the shoulder issues that should scare anyone, but I don't think the Red Sox are going to sign him to a 5-year extension if they do workups on him and MRIs and see that there is a risk that shoulder is going to give out on him. You also have David Price, who, he picked up his option and he's had some left elbow issues. So there's always going to be an injury concern with any pitcher. To me, Chris Sale came back last year and was what they needed him to be at the end of the season. He came in, he did not start, did not make many starts in the postseason, was more of a reliever. But that's the way that he was able to help it, and he got his stuff back towards the end of the year. I think what they're going to do with Chris Sale, work him back slowly. You're not going to see him a lot in the beginning of the season. They're going to try to have him hold that velocity back a little bit so that it doesn't dip so much towards the end of the year. They know how to handle this guy. But I really honestly believe that anytime you sign a pitcher, I mean, look around the major leagues at the number of guys that are going to start the year on the injured list who are pitchers because they just get hurt. It's a lot of workload on those arms, and that's just, I think, a risk that you have to take. To me, it's actually, I know this sounds crazy, but I looked at the deal and thought, wow, they got Chris Sale for a bargain.
All right, J.D. Martinez, Xander Bogaerts, Rick Porcello, all free agents after this season, and then toss in, some guy named Mookie Betts, about due for a contract extension. How do they navigate all of this? You can't keep everybody. Who do they decide to keep?
Well, if you ask some people, they say, hey, open up your wallets, keep everybody, make it work, right? Like you can somehow work Xander Bogaerts' deal to give him double what he's making now. JD Martinez, give him about $150, $200 million, and then go sign Mookie Betts for $400, but backload it and kind of arrange it so that you can afford it. I don't think the Red Sox can do that. To me, Mookie Betts wanting to hold out is really sort of holding this team hostage a little bit, if we draw a football parallel, similar to what Rob Gronkowski did, waiting until sort of the last minute after free agency to tell the Patriots that he wasn't coming back. Mookie Betts has said time and again that he's going to take his time here, that he wants to make sure he does what's best for him and his family. It doesn't seem like he's very eager to sign early so that the Red Sox have an idea of what they're dealing with. So they're going to need to make a decision. Do they let JD Martinez, Xander Bogaerts, Rick Porcello, do they let those guys walk and then just hope that Mookie Betts signs? Or do they sign them and hope they can find the financial flexibility to work out something? Do they make Mookie Betts an offer? This has been thrown out there a lot. Do you make him an offer that he should not be able to refuse? Let's say 10 years, $400 million at an AAV of about $40 million, which would make him the highest paid player. And if he turns that down, do you just assume that he does not want to be in Boston? Do you try to move him and get some pieces to replace him? Because right now, this farm system for the Sox is awful. It's 30th in the majors. That's where it's ranked. So there are a lot of question marks. And that window right now for this Red Sox team to repeat is really only about a year strong.
Trenni, we have another Twitter question for you. The Red Sox fans riding high because Chris asks, will they even lose a single game this season? And then a couple more. One from Fried Bologna.
They're definitely going to lose a game this season.
I know. I don't think NBA teams are getting shut out either. Fried Bologna asks, how many games will it take to wrap up the division this year? And tell us how you think the AL East shakes out.
Sox fans, I would slow your roll, as the kids would say, a little bit. This is a tough division last year, and I think a lot of people are overlooking the fact that there were three teams. The Tampa Bay Rays last year were completely off the radar, but they won 90 games, and you could argue they're a little bit better this year. There are some on the Red Sox beat that think that both wild card teams will come out of the AL East, and then, of course, you'll have the division winner. So it could be the Yankees, Red Sox, and Rays all in the postseason. The Yankees are better. That starting rotation, to me, still some question marks, especially in terms of health. But the Rays are still pretty good, and they seem to manage to find ways to win. The Red Sox, obviously still very good, but are they going to win 108 games? You know, whether or not you loved Craig Kimbrell, he made you a little nervous, he walked the tightrope, he still was there to save games last year and keep you in games. You know, I talked a little bit ago about how Chris Sale, his innings are going to have to be managed. David Price, Nathan Eovaldi, who's still working his way back from a Tommy John surgery. All those guys need to be handled with some care. Well, what do you need for that? Especially early in the season. You need your bullpen to pick up the slack. So now you're asking your bullpen to pitch extra innings early in the year, stay rested enough to be effective at the end of the year. And oh, by the way, one of you guys needs to emerge as our closer. That's a lot of pressure to put on a bullpen. I actually wouldn't be surprised if the Red Sox take a little bit of a step back this year, and this is a fight to the finish. I think more so with the Yankees than the Rays for that AL East crown.
All right, Trenni, before we let you go, I'm going to fire some over-unders at you. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right, 94.5 wins, Red Sox. You going over or under?
I'm going to go over, but only by a smidge, like 95 or 96 wins. And the only reason I'm picking the over on that is because of, again, what I just mentioned. Last year, Red Sox 108 wins in the regular season. Yankees had 100. The Rays had 90. I can't imagine that if it sort of shakes out the same way, I expect the Red Sox to be in that 95 to 100 win range. So over, but only by a teeny little bit.
All right, we've talked about the bullpen, and the closer with the most saves by one Sox pitcher will be over or under 20.5?
I'm taking the under on that. Unless they all of a sudden go out and re-sign Craig Kimbrell or actually get a real closer, this is going to be a fire drill until someone emerges. And even when they do, we see this all the time with relievers, right? They maybe hit a stride as a closer, and then they take a huge step back. I'm going to go the under on that because I think that's something that they're going to try to navigate all the way up to the deadline. I think they're going to have to go out and get someone with some closing experience at the deadline.
All right, Betts, Bogaerts, Martinez all had career years. They combined for 98 bombs last year. We're going to bring it back down to their career averages. Will those three combine over or under 75.5 total home runs?
Can I take a push on this? This one was hard for me because I'm tempted again to say the over, but similar to the win totals, just a smidge over, only because I don't know that they would take a step back to the tune of nearly 20 home runs between the three of them, and that's what the difference would be, right? Just shy of 20 is like 17 or 16 and a half. But I would say they're probably more in the 80 to 85 range because I think everybody might take a slight tick back. I'd also really keep an eye on JD Martinez and that back. That back bothered him in spring training. He had to miss some time. That's something that he had to manage late last season as well, and I think hurt his chances of winning the Triple Crown. So that's something to keep an eye on too. Health is going to be a huge factor in this team's quest to repeat.
Trenni Kusnierek, NBC Sports Boston, live from Seattle. Thank you.